Texas A&M fans have a right to be worried. They have a right to be nervous, and they definitely have a right to be disappointed. But it's still very early in the season, and with the ranked Miami team coming to town this Saturday, the perfect remedy for getting upset is to win a big game immediately after. You would much rather play a good team coming off a bad loss than some team you would run out of the yard, because deep down after, you still really wouldn't know. Now, the Aggies have multiple problems that need to be fixed, but I do believe there's a guy on the roster right now who could give the team a much-needed shot in the arm, and that's LSU transfer quarterback Max Johnson. Now, we've been very vocal on this show since Max transferred that we believed he would ultimately be the guy that gave A&M the best chance to win. Now, after Haynes King was named the starter and anointed the chosen one, we still stuck by that. And don't get me wrong, Haynes isn't a bad player, but his evolution at the position right now isn't the right time for him to be the quarterback. Now, nobody dealt with more problems in-game and out of game than Max Johnson at LSU. Their offensive line couldn't block somebody in Tetris, and the chaos off the field with Ed Orgeron oozed onto the field around him. Yet he still threw for 27 touchdowns and only 6 interceptions. At this point, the Aggies need something to change, and not just at the quarterback position, but getting good play there could be what gives the rest of the guys confidence to go play at the level they've been expected to play at this whole time. I'm going to go ahead and bring in co-host, former Michigan quarterback David Cohn, former Western Colorado wide receiver and known as Flaming Dragon on Fridays, Blaine Crane. And look, A&M, it's easy to pile on them right now, right? Again, we've literally said during the summer, we think Max Johnson needs to be the guy. We go to SEC Media Days, see our buddy Billy Lucci there from Texags. We tell him we think Haynes King's a good player. He's not the right player at the right time. He panics a little bit. He has shown himself not to be a competent thrower consistently and be able to make good decisions, and he's putting the ball on the ground a lot. Max Johnson, for his career, has 35 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, has thrown for over 3,500 yards, has 3 rushing touchdowns, and he is a guy that can give you a legit Brad Johnson's son, a legitimate NFL quarterback's son, guy that knows the position. I'm just looking around kind of like, when do you make this change? Because I feel like A&M has good enough players that they need a little bit of confidence and momentum. I mean, you have players retweeting tweets saying, Max Johnson's the better player. You can't fool the locker room. I wonder if Jimbo fell in love with Haynes King because he's an athletic guy that can run. He's good in practice when the bullets aren't real. But we've got a decent Haynes King sample size now, Cone, going back even to last year. I don't think he's shown you that he can handle it. He's not at that level. Will he be? Probably. But a great shot in the arm would be Max Johnson going back there and giving yourself a chance. And you'd much rather, like I said, have a good team coming in, because if you beat Miami, then all of a sudden it takes a lot of sting out of that App State loss. You beat a top 15 team, then it helps you kind of vault you into SEC play where you can turn your season around.
So there have been players on Texas A&M's team saying that Max Johnson's the guy?
Yep.
Really?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
I mean, because before you said that, I was thinking, what does Jimbo Fisher know that we don't know? Like, what's the deal here? Because we saw what Max Johnson was able to do in a very toxic LSU situation last year. He's going to come in and be a very good quarterback. Now, when the ball leaves Haynes King's arm, you can tell there's just something different. It's a live arm. A couple of the throws that he made in the Sam Houston game, you could clearly see, like, wow, I wouldn't even attempt that throw. Like, it's just... One, it speaks to poor decision-making, but 2, he can make big throws. It's that gunslinger mentality. When you add into the fact that what he can do on his feet, I can kind of understand why Jimbo is like the guy. He's won the starting job twice now, had the injury last year. So, at some point, I just don't know why you wouldn't put in the guy where you at least know what the baseline ceiling is.
Yeah.
Now, maybe Jimbo thought, starting off against Sam Houston and Appalachian State, they could kind of do this Michigan situation where you have some non-conference games before you get into the SEC situation. That is not the case when you play App State, and you found out the hard way. Now, Miami's coming to town, and they have this line at -5 right now. I think this is closer to a pick-em. Is it not? Like Miami? I mean, and you know what? Let's say you beat Miami. Congratulations. Your next 3 games are Arkansas, at Mississippi State, and at Alabama.
Yeah, it's again, there's a reason I had A&M starting out at least 1-2 in the SEC, and when I put out they would go 4-4, like I said, A&M fans wanted to burn my house down. The 2 quarterbacks I was really worried about that people were praising was Haynes King and Spencer Rattler. Now, it's a little bit less... it's more out of Spencer's control with the personnel that they have at South Carolina than Haynes does because they do have good players. But Blaine, and I'm going to get A&M fans and college football fans' thoughts in the chat, in the comments. Let us know, would you go with Max Johnson right now? People will say, oh, well, you need to go with the freshman Connor Wegman. To me, here's the way I think this should work out, in my opinion. We've seen Haynes. I think you got to give Max a shot before you just put Connor Wegman in there and say, all right, freshman, go get it. Good luck, because the last thing you want to do is bring him in and burn him in a bad situation early. You want to make sure you bring him in a situation that is the most advantageous to him. What does that mean? Maybe Max Johnson comes in and balls. And then Connor Wegman's the guy you bring in just to get experience later. Because, again, Max Johnson is a junior, okay? It's not like, he's a redshirt sophomore or a freshman. If Max Johnson comes in and doesn't play well and you have no other choice, then, to me, you make that move when you have no other choice, and then you have him battle it out for 2023, unless, like I said, Max comes in and turns the season around and has a great year. But at some point, something's got to change. And like I said, I know it's not all on Haynes King. I'm not saying Haynes King's the only problem. There's multiple problems. But watching him try to go through a progression, he doesn't look confident. It's not that I don't think he doesn't know what's going on. I don't think he's confident in himself fully to be able to lead a team with his arm down the field. A lot of it is hold, panic. He's pump faking throws to wide open guys and then throwing into him way behind him. He made a couple good throws, couple good vertical throws, but I'm watching him operate, and in the games that A&M is going to have to win against the type teams that they're going to play, even with Miami coming in, because the quarterback on the other side, Tyler Van Dyke, pretty damn good player. That Miami team, not a bad running game. They're not afraid to go downhill with Mario Cristobal. So when I look at A&M, at some point at the quarterback position, you got to be able to flip the momentum a little bit. It's not as much about the play calling. All right, play calling to me is the most overrated aspect of football. There's been a lot of coaches that can't call plays that have great players that look like the smartest guys in the world. There's been a lot of unbelievable play callers. The players aren't good enough, so it looks like they're stupid. Talent plus execution is way more important than play calling. That's why whenever we talk about Jimbo and Bill O'Brien, they're like, oh, Jimbo runs a prehistoric system. What? He runs a pro-style system. Look at what he's running that has some principles from other identities, but he's not running an offense from the 50s. This isn't Eddie Grand, Blaine.
Okay, yeah. What are you asking me? Whether Texas A&M can save their season, or does Jimbo run a prehistoric offense?
It's all in one. Can they save their season by making a change at quarterback?
Well, yeah, you can save your season. I mean, obviously, Haynes King is not the guy. I don't have to watch another weekend of football to know that Haynes King's not the guy. You go look at the first two games he played. I mean, there's certain guys when you put them out there, you just know. Max Johnson. We knew at LSU. He was carrying most of the load, doing it all of himself. I understand. I'm trying to get to the point for your Texas A&M fans. What's holding Jimbo back from putting Max Johnson in there? Why did Max Johnson not really see the field the first 2 weeks? I don't know. Maybe it's a new system. I mean, he's an older kid, so I don't think he would struggle with the system. Seems like a guy who could get it pretty quick. But you can watch Haynes King in the pocket, going through progressions, going through reads that know that he's not the guy, Texas A&M, that's going to get you where you need to go. And then you go back to the Appalachian State game. I mean, you ran the ball for 60 yards. You have a good offensive line, a good running back, and you gave up a $125 versus the App State team. So there's a lot of things right now worrisome for this A&M team. But if you go through their schedule, there's games on this schedule that can save your season. You play Miami. You play Bama. You play Arkansas. Hell, you play South Carolina. You're going to go through a tough SEC schedule.
You got Florida, too.
So you play Florida. Now, the thing about me, I was never high on A&M. A&M does this every year. They're in the same boat as Notre Dame. They're going 12-0. You look up, they're 8-4.
Yeah, and I want to say this. People say, oh, well, the run game's got to get fixed. Yeah, you're right. You know what helps a run game? A competent pass game. We're deep. You know what App State said? We don't think you can throw it and beat us. Mm-hmm. We don't think you can throw it and beat us. I dare you to let Haynes King try and throw it and beat us. And they sold out most of the game against the run. And also, they held the ball for 3/4 of the game because A&M couldn't consistently stop them on defense.
Well, you said the word there, consistency. Inconsistency is one of the most frustrating aspects of athletics. I mean, even with my own quarterback play, it's like, you make a big play one play, and then you struggle to even get the ball in the right position. And you guys coach for a long time. You'd almost rather have a player who is just consistently bad, because at least then you can move on from him, than someone who makes this unbelievable play at one time and then lets you down with a boneheaded play. So that's my question on Haynes King. I mean, what if he gets another shot here, even in this game against Miami, goes in there and throws for 400 yards and adds another 75 yards on the ground? Now Jimbo Fisher's scratching his head because he's like, well, that you finally showed the public what I've been seeing in practice. This is why I've started you, but I know next game you'll throw 4 interceptions.
Yeah, well, again, like you said, we'll go back to consistency. That's why it's tough to play a true freshman, because they're inconsistent, because they're not used to it. Haynes King has enough experience. He's been around that system long enough, Jimbo long enough, to know what's going on. That's me. I don't think it's not like the experience thing. We got to throw that out the window. You play a couple games as a starting quarterback, you've got some experience. All right, you're not getting shocked by anything. But again, I think they need something to change. Hey, if you like what you heard and you want to hear more, go on over to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher. Check out Crane & Company live every day from 2 to 3 Central, where you can hear us spit it straight.